I did not cry when they put the chains on my wrists. I did not cry when they marched me through the long silver hallway, past 1,000 alien eyes that watched me the way people watch a storm from behind glass. I did not cry when they said the word execution, like it was a gift they were giving me. I only walked, and I only breathed, and I only waited. The great council chamber was built to make small things feel smaller. The ceiling rose so high that the lights above looked like distant stars. The walls were carved with the laws of 1,000 worlds, laws that were supposed to be fair, laws that were supposed to protect the weak. I used to believe in laws like that, back when I was young enough to believe in most things. I was 19 now, old enough to know better. They led me to the center of the floor, where a circle of pale stone marked the place where judgment was given. Above me, on a high seat carved from black metal, sat the judge. His name was Vesemar Thane, and he had sat on that seat for over 200 years, watching species rise and species fall, deciding who lived free and who did not. He looked down at me with eyes like dull coins, eyes that had already decided my fate before I ever spoke a word. "Human," he said, and his voice rolled through the chamber like distant thunder. "You stand accused of defying the Council's order to surrender the colony world of Esdrin Minor. You resisted lawful transfer. You caused disruption to Council operations. You are a danger to Galactic order." I lifted my chin. "I stand accused of protecting children," I said. 300 of them, human children, born on a world your council decided to hand over to a mining company without asking anyone who lived there. A murmur moved through the gathered crowd, alien delegates from 100 systems, some curious, some annoyed, most simply bored, the way people get bored watching something they have seen 100 times before. To them, I was not a person, I was a lesson, a warning to the rest of my species: do not resist us, or this is what happens to you. "The law does not care for your justifications," the judge said. "The law cares for order, and you, girl, are disorder." I almost laughed, almost, because if he only knew how much order I had planned for this exact moment. Let me go back, just a little, so you understand how I came to be standing in chains before the most powerful being in known space. My name is Ren Calloway, and I grew up on Esdrin Minor, a small human colony on the edge of Council space. It was not a rich world. It was not a powerful world. It was just home, full of wheat fields that turned gold in the autumn wind, and a school where I once taught younger kids how to read before the Council came and changed everything. 3 months ago, a Council trade envoy arrived and told us that Esdrin Minor had been reassigned. Our world, they said, sat on a rich vein of therium ore, a mineral needed for faster-than-light engines. A mining corporation from the Threll Combine had petitioned for rights to the planet, and the Council, always eager to keep the wealthy species happy, granted them the land beneath our feet. We were given 30 days to leave. 30 days to abandon the only home most of us had ever known. 30 days to walk away from graves, from gardens, from the school where 300 children were learning their letters. The corporation did not care where we went. The Council did not care either. We were simply in the way of profit. My father tried to argue through proper channels. He wrote letters. He filed appeals. He believed, foolishly, that the system might listen if we were polite enough, patient enough, human enough about it. The system did not listen. The system never does. Not to people who have no fleet, no wealth, no seat at the table. So I did something else. I will not pretend I am proud of everything I did in those 30 days. I broke into Council administrative networks. I found records that were never meant to be public, records showing that Council officials had taken payment from the mining corporation in exchange for approving the transfer. Bribery, plain and simple, hidden behind official language and careful signatures. I found it, and I copied it, and I hid it somewhere safe before anyone could stop me. Then, when the corporation's transport ships arrived to begin the evacuation, I did the only thing I could think of. I stood between the ships and the school, along with every adult on Esdrin Minor who was willing to stand beside me. We did not carry weapons. We carried nothing but our own bodies and our own refusal to move. It worked, for a while. The corporation could not begin mining with 300 children and their families standing on the surface. Council enforcers arrived to clear us by force, and that is when things became difficult. And that is when I was taken into custody. accused of inciting resistance against a lawful council order. They never found the evidence I hid. That is the part they do not know yet. Back in the chamber, the judge was still speaking, listing my crimes the way a merchant lists items for sale: resistance, disruption, endangerment of council personnel, though no one had been harmed, not once, not by me or by anyone standing beside me. The sentence, Vesemar Thane said, rising slightly from his seat, is execution, to be carried out immediately, as a lesson to any world that considers defying the will of this council. The chamber grew quiet. Somewhere above me, a mechanism began to hum, a ring of pale light forming around the circle where I stood, an old council device meant to carry out sentences with clean efficiency. No mess, no delay, just judgment delivered the way judgment had always been delivered here for centuries. I felt my heart pounding, but I did not let my face show it. Fear was exactly what he wanted to see. I would not give him that gift. "Before you finish," I said, and my voice was steadier than I expected. "May I speak?" The judge tilted his head, amused. "Humans and their need for last words. Speak then, if it comforts you." I looked around the chamber, at all those alien faces watching me like I was already gone. And then I looked directly at the judge. "You said I am a danger to galactic order," I said. "But order built on bribery is not order at all. It is theft wearing a crown." The amusement in his eyes flickered, just slightly. "Careful, girl." "I found the records," I said. "The payments from the Threll Combine to 3 council officials, including one very close to your own office, in exchange for approving the transfer of Esdrin Minor. I found the dates. I found the amounts. I found the names." Silence, real silence, spread through the chamber now. The kind of silence that comes when something true has been spoken in a place built on comfortable lies. "Lies," the judge said, but his voice had lost some of its thunder. "I would not lie with my last words," I said. "There would be no point. But I did not come here only to speak. I came here because I know exactly how this device works." I nodded toward the ring of pale light surrounding me. "It reads intent through a bonded link to the operator's own neural signature. That is why only a sitting judge can activate a sentence, so that council law can never be misused by lesser hands. Am I wrong?" The judge said nothing, which told me I was right. "Before I was arrested," I continued, "a friend of mine, a technician who does not agree with everything this council does, made one small adjustment to this chamber's systems. Nothing that would show on any inspection. Just a single redirection, waiting for the moment the sentencing device activated." "What redirection?" the judge said, and now there was something new in his voice, something careful. "The device does not care who stands in the circle," I said. "It cares who holds intent to end a life without lawful cause. And Judge Thane, the moment you activate that sentence against me, knowing the true reason for it is corruption and not justice, the system will recognize exactly whose hand set it in motion." For a long moment, nobody moved. I watched the judge's coin-colored eyes flick toward the humming ring of light, toward the panel at his side, toward the countless witnesses who were now leaning forward instead of looking away. He believed me. That was the only thing I needed him to do. "You are bluffing," he said, but he did not sound certain. "Perhaps," I said, "but are you willing to test it, in front of every delegate in this chamber, knowing what I have already told them about the bribes?" I had not actually rerouted anything. There was no hidden technician, no clever redirection, no trick device waiting to turn his own weapon against him. I had only my voice, and my knowledge of how deeply afraid powerful people become when their corruption is spoken aloud in public, where it cannot be quietly buried anymore. The judge hesitated, and in that hesitation, something remarkable happened. One by one, the other delegates began to whisper among themselves. A representative from the Velkari Assembly rose to her full height and demanded a formal review of the evidence I had described. A Threll trade official, who had looked bored moments before, now looked deeply uncomfortable. The chamber, which had been a place of quiet cruelty only minutes ago, was becoming something else, a place where questions were finally being asked out loud. "This session is suspended," the judge said sharply, trying to reclaim control of a room that no longer fully belonged to him. "Pending review." "No," said the Velkari representative, her voice cutting through his. "This session continues, Judge Thane. but perhaps not with you presiding over it. I did not smile, though I wanted to. I only stood there, still in chains, still inside the ring of pale light, and let the truth do the rest of the work I had started. It took 11 days for the full investigation to unfold. 11 days of testimony, of records pulled from hidden servers, of officials who suddenly remembered details they had forgotten before. The bribes were real. The corruption reached further than even I had guessed, touching 3 separate council seats and 2 trade envoys. Judge Vesemar Thane was removed from his position, stripped of his seat, and sentenced under the very laws he had used so easily against people like me. Esdrin Minor was returned to its people. The mining rights were revoked. I do not know if it will stay that way forever. The galaxy is large, and greed does not disappear just because one corrupt judge fell from his chair. But for now, the wheat fields are still gold in the autumn wind, and the school still has 300 children learning their letters, and that is enough for today. I think about that moment often, standing in the circle of light, not knowing for certain if my bluff would hold. People ask me sometimes if I was afraid. I tell them the truth. I was terrified. But I learned something on Esdrin Minor, something my father tried to teach me with his letters and his patience, something I finally understood, only when patience alone was not enough. Power that is built on lies is fragile, no matter how large it appears. It only needs one voice, speaking clearly enough, in front of enough witnesses, to begin to crack. They wanted my execution to be a warning to humanity. Instead, it became a warning to every corrupt official, hiding behind ancient laws and old titles, a reminder that truth, spoken without fear, is still the sharpest weapon anyone has ever made. I did not execute the judge with my hands. I executed him with the truth he thought no one would ever find, and in the end, that was more than enough.